Hey everyone, today I'm going to be discussing A Quiet Place Part 2. A Quiet Place Part 2 is a science fiction horror film written and directed by John Krasinski, starring Emily Blunt, Millicent Simmonds, Noah Jupe, and Cillian Murphy. The film serves as a direct sequel to A Quiet Place from 2018, and the plot follows the Abbott family having to escape from their home after the events of the first film, where they eventually run into an old family friend and intercept some radio transmissions that suggest of a safe haven somewhere beyond the sea. I never got to watch the first part in the cinema, so I was really excited to get the opportunity to see this one in the cinema. And while it's not quite the same sort of film as the first one, being a lot more expansive in scope and a lot less claustrophobic and atmospheric, I still think it's served for a really great cinema-going experience. While the film has some larger scale set pieces, it still finds some space for those really tense sound-focused sequences that made the first film so famous and successful. And this is really helped by Polly Brown's cinematography, which really brings this foreboding and almost kind of menacing beauty to proceedings. Reminded me quite a lot of The Last of Us in a way, in how the world was designed as well. With you see all these beautiful kind of open landscapes where all the plants are kind of regrowing everything, kind of like nature's taking back control of the earth. The performances in general were really, really good, particularly from the child actors. Millicent Simmonds was fantastic, and Noah Jupe had some really great moments, and Emily Blunt was really good. Cillian Murphy was, mostly okay, but I think he's had some. He's definitely done better performances, and I think his character just wasn't as interesting as it could have been. There were some hints at some stuff underneath, which I wish they'd kind of developed a bit more. We see a lot more of the aliens in this film, and I think the visual effects are done really well, excluding maybe one or two shots where it looked a bit ropey. But they look really good. The design reminds me quite a bit of the future predators from that TV show Primeval, mixed in with the clickers from The Last of Us. The opening sequence of this film was really fantastic. It was really intense and exhilarating, had me on the edge of my seat, and I was really excited to see the rest of the film after that. It was really sublimely done. Unfortunately, I think that was probably actually the high point of the film, rather than towards the end, which is where you'd hope it would be. So the rest of the film just ends up being quite a bit disappointing for me, and the whole thing felt a bit rushed by the end, and I felt it ended a bit quickly and suddenly. I wasn't very satisfied with the ending, quite similar to my feelings on the first film. I think it was mostly due to them setting up the inevitable part 3. There are also some quite interesting plot elements, which I wish they'd kind of explored a bit more. For example, they introduced the classic humanity is the real monster trope that we've seen in films such as 28 Days Later, but they only touched on it briefly and then sort of forgot about it. Hopefully they develop on that a bit in the third part, because I think I thought that was the road the film was going to go down as a whole, but I'd be really interested to see that developed a bit further. Another problem I had was that the internal logic of the film didn't quite seem consistent with that of the first. There were elements, particularly the sound, which is probably the most important aspect of these films, that didn't seem to match well with that of the first. I kept thinking, if they'd done this in the first film, they'd be dead right now. And I think that ended up kind of taking away a bit of that element of intensity and fear that this film should have. But overall, I think this is a really solid follow-up to the original. I don't think it's quite as good as the original, but it does have some really nice cinematography, shot framing, some great performances, nice world design, and some pretty solid special effects. So I'm going to give A Quiet Place Part 2 a 3 out of 5. So what did you think of A Quiet Place Part 2? Let me know in the comments below, and check the description for my Letterboxd and Twitter accounts. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in another video.